Welcome to Healing Medicine, formerly the Mindful Healers podcast.
This is the podcast for physicians and healthcare professionals who crave balance and purpose. If you want to rediscover your love for medicine and life, one mindful step at a time, you are in the right place. We are Dr. Jessie Mahoney
And Dr. Nichang Liang, physicians who bring decades of experience in physician health and wellness and leadership to the wellness conversation. Like so many of you, we felt the exhaustion, the disillusionment, and the weight of a career that demands so much, often at the expense of our own well-being.
In this podcast, we explore mindfulness, mindset, and real, sustainable health and well-being strategies.
Not as another task to add to your plate, but as a way to experience medicine and life differently.
Each episode dives into practical strategies, coaching tools, and real conversations to help you feel more present, fulfilled, and in control.
When we are healthy and well, we become powerful agents of change.
If you're ready to break free from exhaustion, cynicism, overwhelm, feeling ineffectual and stuck, and rediscover joy and presence, you are in the right place.
A life and a career that truly fits you await.
Reminder that nothing in this podcast is medical advice. In today's episode, we will pause, reflect, and integrate. Today's episode is going to be us sharing in real time the powerful tools of pausing, reflecting, and integrating at the halfway mark, letting this halfway point of 2025 be a moment of discovery for us and sharing the tools for you. So hopefully you may want to do it on your own. And my thoughts on this are that when I pause, I can be clear about how I want to move forward, where I can see how I got here, and integrating and marinating and doing all of that allows me to figure out where I want to go next. So we hope that we'll give you some takeaways by the end of practical tools to help you step back and reflect and integrate and marinate yourself.
So, why are we doing this episode now? Part of it is that it's pretty much the middle of the year. Like, and at this point, actually, a little bit more than half of 2025 has passed us by. And true to the healing medicine title of our podcast, part of healing is also including some reflection and some time, spaciousness for integration of what's already occurred. So we felt very inspired to share all of this in real time. We are going to be sharing quite authentically as you'll see, especially with my current journey, all of its glorious messiness and imperfection. And that we hope that you'll see the value in doing this in two very different lives, in different seasons, in a quite upsetting time that is chaotic in our world's history.
So we're going to begin by reflecting on our words for the year. For those of you who aren't familiar with our annual practice of choosing words for the year, guiding lights or intentions, we encourage you to go back and listen to the previous episodes on this. The most recent was episode 230 on us choosing our words for this year. And there is at least one annual episode in December/January of all of the years that we have done the podcast about why intentions are more important than goals and the power of choosing words and how to do so and how to use those words in your life. This is the first time we are reflecting on our words mid-year. And for me, it's super helpful. So I had to take a moment to pause and remember my words. Although I have gone back to them a few times, I found often recently in the last month. So my words were beyond, belong, and sparkle. And then my stretch word was ease. And as I work through some of the reflection questions, I will reflect on these more specifically. But my overall thought is like, wow, I am well on my way with my beyond, belong, and sparkle words. And boy, that stretch word is really coming up, finding ease in unexpected challenges. I expected political challenges. I and, I always expect running a business to challenge my sense of ease because there's a lot of uncertainty and many of us struggle with uncertainty and I work on that. But I didn't expect to have challenges navigating ease in other parts of my family life, which has been my recent journey. And so I'm excited to think about how perhaps I could move beyond some of these struggles and how I can figure out really leaning into the belonging as a word I'm just loving in terms of belonging in different spaces and communities and on stages and in all the places that I'd like to explore. And one thing that just came to mind is in this belonging journey, I, a few podcasts ago, shared a new friend with you, Enya Oakes, who had written a book. And actually, we've gotten together twice now. Every time she comes out, we're getting together. So I have a new friend and I have a new friend who I've never met before coming to visit this afternoon. And so that's really part of my belonging is belonging with different people in different spaces. And the person coming this afternoon is someone from my Martha Beck coach training who lives in Sacramento. And I've never met her in person. I've only met her online. So I'm really excited. She is not in medicine and excited to grow and belong in lots of different spaces as well. So let's hear about your words, Nietzsche.
That's funny that you said words plural because I only remember one of my
That's
words.
why I was laughing.
And that is kind of funny to me because maybe an older version of me would have been like, oh my gosh, how embarrassing. Like I set these intention words and I wanted for them to be like my North Star, my guiding light. I only remember one of them out of like 3 or 4. But I am embracing that imperfection. I am embracing where I'm at right now and sharing with all of you that the one word that I remember is rest. And then the rest of the words I don't remember.
And you're getting an A+ in that.
So let's reflect upon this. And I'm gonna joke that I'm like, have I done so much resting that like I forgot my other words? But no, I don't think that is the case. That is not the case, actually. I have noticed, though, in terms of this word, that there have definitely been shifts in the intentionality of like how I'm putting myself out there, especially within the social media. So I can actually honestly say that I'm kind of been resting more from social media. I haven't been posting as much. And while an older version of me would have felt guilty or bad about that, or somehow have had it affect my worth, like now it's just like, I don't really feel called to post as much on social media for whatever reason. And I've diverted a lot of that time to other things because my life is still quite full. I've also, as I've shared with you, dear listener, many times that I've taken some rest from my what was perceived as my own entrepreneurial hustle. That has created some spaciousness for a lot of other things that I'm prioritizing right now. I've been resting from free work. So a lot of the committee type obligations of different subspecialty groups, boards, for instance, my terms actually just ended pretty recently within the last few months. And I can rest in knowing that I have contributed a lot of my time and energy for years in some situations for free. And I have done good deeds in my sharing of that time and energy. But now it's time to close those chapters, provide opportunities to allow new people to experience and to give opportunity for them to contribute in their own way. I am resting in the spaciousness of allowing all of the feels. I'm going to be doing, thank you, Jessie, for your lovely suggestion of my upcoming special solo cast on reflections from celebrations of life that I had the honor of attending two actually in the last week, like last calendar 7 days, for people that are an important part of my life or my family's lives. I have been much more intentionally physically resting, like getting enough sleep to improve my glycemic control. I have recently delved into, on the good advice of my primary care physician, to start continuous glucose monitoring because I'm right borderline for diabetes. I'm in like the pre-diabetes range. And between my current menopausal status and my genetics, both of which are basically beyond my control, I can choose to take care of my health. And that definitely includes being very intentional about getting good consolidated 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. Doesn't happen 100% of the time, but I can certainly prioritize it. And I have been successful at that. And I also noticed that a really huge benefit of it, because I realized from continuous glucose monitoring for the last 5 weeks or so that I'm very data driven, especially when it comes to my own glycemic control, that it actually getting the recommended amount of sleep actually does improve my glycemic control throughout that day. So it pays off in spades, basically, to rest. I'm going to say that again. It pays off in spades to rest. Multiple levels of stuff there. I am resting in my current role within my family, within the sandwich generation that we had spoken about on this podcast before, of caring for my aging parents and all of their healthcare needs that have significantly increased over the last couple of years, and for my kids and their different seasons of life with all of their activities and experiences and what they're going through with mind, body, and spirit. I am also resting in the conviction, like there is very little doubt now that I know what I want. I might not necessarily like it, and I might still judge what comes up for me as what I want, but I can definitely rest in the conviction of knowing what I want. And double entendres, because we love our double entendres here on the Healing Medicine podcast, including our podcast title, that I'm letting go of the rest of my words. Because clearly this was the one word that I was meant to remember and the only one that I remembered. Yeah. So there you go.
I love it. I love it. That was fun. And there's also beauty in noticing the simplicity of having one word. You really were able to delve in and explore it and notice what you have done well and what's working for you. And that's powerful. So I thought that I would share a little bit of reflection questions that I like to ask myself because they help my brain to figure out what I want to look at and how do I want to move forward. And I have kind of a long list of questions that sit there, and I choose the ones that feel helpful in the moment. So it's not a you have to answer all the questions. It's like what comes up. And some of them you'll feel like delving into a lot. Others of them, they'll be like one word, like the word rest, and that's it. And you just stick with that word. So I offer these questions again, not as questions that you have to answer all of them, pick and choose. And I offer them as a practice of integration. And I'm really into this word marinating, like marinating vegetables and letting things sit and shift and change you. And so sometimes questions help you do that. And very often in a transformation journey and in a life, we skip the integration marination phase and we just keep going on because we think we have somewhere to get to. And so the power of pausing and noticing and then letting that integrate and let yourself think about it. And interestingly for me, I have decided today, after asking these questions, that I'm just going to let all of July be an integration marination month, and then I'll figure out what's next because um, it seems to happen to me most Julys. And I don't know, July is my birthday month, so I don't know if it's partly that. It's kind of like a reassessment month. But I also just like it as like a warm summer month to be thoughtful in a different way than kind of that hibernation winter assessment. It feels very different to me. And my energy is much more summer energy. And so I'm going to think about this further, although I'll share some of my answers today for fun. So the questions that I like to ask, and I'm going to answer them shortly, but I'm going to share the questions first because I think it's a helpful way to think about it. So I like to ask, what have I done well? What has gone well? And what is working well? And those are three very different questions. And I like to ask them all because they evoke different answers. Like, what have I done well? What has gone well? And what is working well? So also note that I'm using the positive here. I'm not looking at what's broken, what I need to let go of, what's not going well. I'm focusing on what is going well. And that sort of strengths-based positivity focus. I have found for me that when I do this, this is where I have my best energy and where I can move forward in a more helpful way.
Thank you for highlighting the practice of positive attention bias, because oftentimes we are negative attention biased, wired, and also trained to be perfectionists at negative attention bias. So thank you for highlighting positive attention bias.
Well, and by asking the questions, I'm training myself out of that on purpose because I'm so well trained. And if I don't ask the questions this way, I can automatically give you a list of all the things I still need to do in the rest of 2025 and what I haven't done and where my areas of improvement and growth should be. That's not really very helpful for me. So focusing on the well and not just what has gone well out of my control, but what has gone well in my control and what I'm doing that's working well. And then I also really like these next two questions. What is bringing me joy/delight/fun, whatever language feels right to you? What's feeling fun, and what do I love or what have I loved this year? Again, focusing on this positive energy in this season of life, because what I've loved this year might be very unexpected. It might not have been on my list of words. It might not have been on my list of things I wanted to work on. And so it's really powerful. And why not just do more things that you love, right? And then also when I'm thinking about what I might want to be different, I can think about what I've learned and how I've grown. Because so often we don't acknowledge how far we've come. We only look at how far we have to go. So these questions of integrating and assessing, I really love to lean into the positive and how you're satisfied and how you're content and how you've done a good job. I have found that for me and almost everybody I work with, when you think about it that way, you actually end up doing so much more that's actually meaningful and aligned and helpful for you than if you sit here and think about how you've fallen short and what areas you still need to work on or change, etc. And then I also like to look ahead. And in the looking ahead, I like to think about it as that being intentional. And so here again, it's not all or none, but what do I want more of? What do I want less of? Where am I making things harder or getting in my own way? Or this is, what do I want to stop doing? What parts do I want to leave in the first half of the year? Or maybe I wanted to leave them last year, but they're still here. And then where I want to focus my attention. Again, that's the positive shift. And one of my favorite questions is, what will my future self in January of 2026 wish I had spent my time doing in this next 6 months? Because she's really wise, she's me, and she thinks I did a good job. And while that seems really woo, to me, it's very helpful because I can connect to the kinds of things that I will wish that I had done. And it helps me take action. It's not thinking about what other people will think I should have done or what I'm supposed to do, but what I will wish I had done. And sometimes that often gets me to do the things like, I'm curious about your glucose monitoring. Maybe I'll wish I had done that. I will wish I had moved more. I will wish I had swam in the pool in the summer in January when it's pouring rain. I will wish that I had hiked more mountains. I will wish that I had spent more time in the fall foliage, right? Or I will wish that I had given more talks. So when I think about it in that way, it gives me a lot of creative answers. So any thoughts on those questions, Yu Chang, before I give some of my answers? And then I'm going to ask you the questions too.
So the questions are a potpourri of different variations. And so to invite you, dear listener, to pick and choose the ones that resonate with you. The one that I really liked that brought something up for me when you asked it was the what will my future self wish I had focused on? So that one can be really helpful when you are deciding about what to do next or how to respond in a healthy or helpful way. Like that would be a very
Mhm. Whether
uh,
to say yes or no to an offer to give a talk or to do something for free.
yeah, and we had talked about the big capital italicized bolded R in the Rainer practice just a couple minutes ago when we were doing this recording. And I feel like that would be a really helpful question
Yeah.
for choosing a response.
Yeah, so I'm curious, I'm just going to ask you now, since I know you haven't thought about these answers, but what will your future self in January wish you had focused on?
I think a lot of what I'm already doing in terms of prioritizing my health and the focus on my glycemic control.
Yeah.
My future self will definitely be really grateful that I had done that because I can manifest that my hemoglobin A1C is actually going to be lower because of all of the hard work that I'm putting into this monitoring and changing my lifestyle in different ways. So that's probably top of mind right now for me.
Yeah. And are you aware of any way in which you're getting in your own way of living the life you want or doing more of the things that matter most to you?
So I think as you were asking the questions, I had another inspiration for a podcast episode, which was about uh, Labubu addiction. So
Okay.
what is Labubu addiction?
I'm
So,
like, what is that?
so there is a designer toy that has become globally viral, and I've become sucked into this world of trying to procure them and trying to um, collect the series. Um, and sometimes it can be a bit time consuming. And so I think my future self would appreciate it if I potentially now in July of 2025 spent less time doing that. Though I will
Yeah.
honestly say though, right now it's been really fun. It's been an opportunity to reparent myself and also connect with my kids on kind of like a shared joy. And I can definitely call out my privilege in being able to partake in the fun that we're having because of this like global viral toy brand.
Well, and I want to point out something here, which I think is really helpful when you're reflecting. It also fits under the category of what's bringing you joy and delight.
Yes.
And so it's like moderation or how, so this is you wish you want to spend, maybe you want to keep that the same, spend the same amount, not let it grow, but still have fun. Or maybe there's a way to tweak it slightly so it's more fun and less draining if there's a part of it. Or maybe it's something you want to do in the summer and stop in the fall. And so I love the idea when you start to think about it this way, the answers are often not black and white, right? Things that you loved also might have been hard and might have been challenging and might have, other things. And so I just love this idea. Any other questions that brought things up for you that you want to share?
I, in terms of like what I've done well,
Yeah.
I've done a much better job of prioritizing what's important to me in this first half of the year than probably any other year. Part of that, not necessarily by choice, but apparently it is very much by choice. Um, the what takes up headspace and emotional currency, I I prize that a lot for myself. Like there's definitely I treat those aspects of me as gold. And I think in prior versions of myself years ago, I wouldn't have done that for myself and my family. So
I
that
think
I
too,
think has been a big main one.
you reach out for help when something is draining your emotional currency pretty quickly now. You're
Yeah,
like,
that's
"Hey, this
true.
came up and it's going
As
to drain my
recently as last
currency,
week
and
with
I'm
you.
going to call Jessie, and we'll sort it out." But I just want to own that I don't think your previous self would have only done it when it was really, 2 days in, 3 days in. And now you do it day of.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for reflecting that back to me.
Yeah, I didn't think about it until this moment, but that's the beauty of having these conversations. And so part of the work is reflecting on your own. And then there's such value in reflecting with another person who either knows you or being a part of a group or a small group. At retreats, I see people reflect things back to someone else, or and in one-on-one coaching, you have a coach who's reflecting back to you, or you can have a good friend. Sometimes it's messier. But I think it's a really powerful thing to notice that part of the work is on your own, but allowing other people to see you and show you things that, especially that you've done well and that have gone well, that you, because we have such a strong negativity bias, might struggle with. The other thing that I see a lot of people struggle with is like what's bringing them joy and delight and what they love. That I often get the answer, I don't know. But then when you start to dig into it, you do know and you get really excited. And there are funny things like these Labubu's that are bringing you joy, or, it might be very specific, like ice cream on a hot sunny day with my grandson. That brings me great joy, right? Not every day, not all the time, but for example, something like that, even though it probably ruins my glycemic index. All right. So, talking a little bit about what I think I have done well. And what I thought of was that I've been pretty intentional about taking breaks. They might not be perfectly timed, but I've made sure that I have breaks and that I have spent time resting. And I have been very intentional about spending time in nature and gardening and farming. And every day I go out and check out my flowers. I'm so proud of them. And my vegetables and watch them grow. And so been very intentional about that. I've been very intentional about learning how to negotiate. I really don't like it, but I've been very intentional about it. I'm getting so much better at it. And I've been really intentional about speaking up and saying what I think in spaces where I might not have in the past, what I want, what I don't want. And I've been very intentional about making new friends. And I think I've done a really good job of that. I've done it in multiple spaces in my neighborhood and with people I don't know. That's not my usual. So it's been really fun.
So I wanted to highlight that because in our age group, that's really hard to do. So like that's amazing, Jessie. That's awesome that you're making new friends and you're very intentional about making new friends and like fostering those relationships and like scheduling events
Yeah.
for in-person connection. Like we used to not be able to do that with COVID for years, and now here you are.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and that's actually, when I think about it, that's on my list of things I want more of, like more in-person things, um, more chances. And even if they're not in person, like in the moment, live with people. I love doing this podcast, but we don't get to see people's faces and reactions and interact about it. And that is really what I love about, even if I have to travel to give workshops, that's what I love about them, is the meeting the people all over the country. And I love meeting the people who come here for retreats. I never know them when they show up. I mean, I know a few of them, the people who come back again, but it's amazing to not know someone and then to have this person out in the world who, in many ways, we become friends because we're so intimately connected in doing this work. And that feels really pretty magical. And so thinking, I also really like to think about what's gone well, because I think it's so easy right now to look at what's not going well. And there's so many things in our world and in our country and with our climates that are not going well. But to think about what is going well. And I think particularly for me, the retreats and coaching and the speaking are going really well. And actually, I'm really nervous to say that because I'm a superstitious doctor who's like, if I say that, something bad will happen, just so that y'all know I'm a real person. And yet, to not acknowledge, I mean, they aren't just going well by accident. I actually put a lot of work into making it go well. And I took a lot of risk and it took a lot of courage. And I'm afraid to say that. But it is also a beautiful thing. And so, to to honor that and to learn from what's gone well. There's good learning in there. What's also going well is trusting myself. Like if I feel like it's a yes, I just do it. So I invite someone I don't know over. I'm like, that sounds fun. Like, and I just don't hesitate, which my old self would weigh the risks and benefits and might I be too tired? And what if it's, now I'm just like, yes or no, like, and not worrying about it. This is something probably, I put it in my gone well, but I think that actually I'm doing well. I've been working with a personal trainer since December and it's going really well. Whether it's going well or I'm doing well, I don't know, but it's working. Yes. Say.
so I wanted to point out that like when you are trusting and believing in yourself, that's like super efficient living.
Yes, it is.
Like talk about like time efficiency and
It's
emotional
cheap.
currency.
It's cheap.
Like
Yeah.
it's really, really efficient.
Yeah.
So putting the work, there's a lot of hard work to get to the point where you're at, Jessie, where the trust and the belief is now quite embedded into your moral fiber and being. But it wasn't automatic. Like we certainly weren't. We were actually taught the opposite in a lot of our healthcare training, right? Like to like not believe a lot of what was told to us. Like check the results yourself, look at it yourself, right? And to
That
be
is
distrustful.
such a good point, because I hear from so many people like, well, do you have to do this work forever? And yes, some of it is you do have to. I mean, we continue. If you want to continue to evolve, you have to continue. But so much of the things that I used to work on are now just automatic. And so it's really more of like refining and slight tweaks over time. Or maybe you want to delve into a different relationship, something you haven't looked at. Or you might want to take a break. And I have actually also done well. I have taken, for the most part, a break from doing my own coaching for about 6 months because I haven't needed it. Although I have reached out once or twice when I did need it. But I think just recognizing and figuring it out. And I think the other thing that has gone well is just showing up with that like love, heart-centered approach. So for me, that's been awesome. And the joy and delight, those veggies and the flower garden. I know it's funny. It's like slow joy and delight. And being decisive, that is actually bringing me joy and delight because I was never a decisive person. And so I work with so many people who struggle with decisions, and I was the worst decision maker. Just saying. I would second guess myself. I would hem and haw. I would try to get it all just right. And I'm actually taking delight in being decisive now and just like having it not cost me a lot. And and if I'm going to acknowledge, I put a lot of effort and energy into getting better at that. I'm also really finding joy and delight in quiet time, like quiet, sitting quietly and resting. Funny. And my sound healing. I'm really finding joy and delight in that. We might have to do a podcast on that, but I've gotten some new sound healing instruments and crystal bowls, and like, wow, I'm having so much fun. And this makes you feel amazing. So I'm really delighted with that. And then what I've loved my new friends. I have really leaned into trying different things. And again, the yeses that I've even, it's funny, I'll say yes and then I'll have to go to the thing and I'm like, oh, maybe I don't want to go. But once I get there, I love it. I've been loving all the live music that we have around here where I live now. And again, like if something appeals to me, I always listen to it now on YouTube. Like if I want to go see the concert, there's so many live music events, like 5 a week in the summer. So I have to listen to it and decide which one. And I'm like, if it sounds good and I want to go, I just go. And it turns out amazing. And I'm really loving the people, as you mentioned, all the getting to know real people and interacting with real people and doing that, thinking and talking and being in the moment with real people. It's amazing. And then some of the other questions I like to ask are like, what have I learned? And this one it feels a little sad to share about, but I think it's also really important that I have learned that the world and that people you love or who love you can be very disappointing. And that's okay. And I think we know that, right? Like our politics can be disappointing and the other people can act in very disappointing ways. And it's usually not about you, though it might be. And they can be amazing people and disappointing people, and they can love you and disappoint you. And so I have actually really learned that. And with all of the, outward things that have gone well, I think that's something I've really been working through, and it's helpful to work through it, even though it feels a little heavy and sad. And I've learned, actually, I think that I do belong. I'm like, that belonging word is really fun. And that I've also learned about this beyond that, like things beyond what you thought of, like as something that you would do. I have done so many things in the last 6 months that they weren't on my list of things that I wanted to do, and they've turned out amazing. And they're things that I wouldn't have thought that, I'm going to put this in quotes, someone like me would go do. And yet, why not? And they've been fun. And so I love this. That's where I love my word beyond. It's like things beyond your belief about yourself and your life and what it could look like can be true. I've also learned that the sparkling isn't dangerous. These are my words, but I used to really think that like if you wore a sparkly dress or you like allowed yourself to sparkle or be seen, that somebody would, I don't know, step on you. I don't know. In my family, you weren't supposed to sparkle. And that but you don't actually have to wear a sparkly dress to sparkle. Like you can sparkle in it's energy. It's the sparkling energy, and it's bringing that love and vibrancy and warmth and positivity and love into the world. And I've learned I can trust myself. How about that? So that feels like a pretty good place to start. Some of the other questions that I haven't, I still have to explore a little bit are like, where do I want to focus my attention? So interesting, because that was on my list of questions that I should ask myself, and I don't know the answer yet. And it's not that I don't know it. That's the one I have to marinate on for all of July. I'm not ready yet to answer it. And I love giving yourself the option of, I can't answer it yet. But by the end of July, I think I probably will. And what will my future self wish I had focused on? That also needs some marination. And maybe my future self will wish I hadn't focused specifically on anything and I just, rolled with it or went with the flow, or I don't know. I have to explore that. So I love this idea of just choosing the questions that feel right to you in the moment and exploring them and offering what comes. because as we've kind of worked through that, and one of the reasons that this came up as a topic is that I really wanted to sit and pause and work through it and think about it. And so gifting yourself that time and the space to do it is an incredible growth experience in and of itself. And reminding yourself, just as both of us are willing to be messy and allow it to look like whatever. If you can't remember your words, fine. If you don't want to answer that question, fine. If you aren't in the mood to think about where you might be getting in your own way or spending time on things that you wish you weren't, think about it later. Like I think often we say, oh no, push through the hard questions. You can go back to them at any time. And there is no rule that you have to do this in the middle of the year. You can do it in October. You can do it whenever. And so it's just a beautiful opportunity to do what works for you and trust yourself. But taking the time to see how far you've come and see these positive things about what you're doing well and what's lighting you up, that would be another way to say what you love, is really, really powerful. What was your experience of it, Nietzsche?
Of this reflection exercise that was
Yeah,
very much like off the cuff with you during this recording.
yeah, it was awesome.
um, it was definitely helpful in that it provided a designated um, time to actually engage in the practice. So that's the other thing with this type of reflection is like you have to give yourself permission to actually like partake in
Mhm.
actually doing it because it takes time. It's not going to be instantaneous. And if you want to do it well or make it worthwhile, you have to actually spend the time to actually think about it, right? Um, so yeah. So thank you for kind of carving out that time
I'm
in
curious
real
what
time.
your thoughts were about having to talk about it. How did that, was that helpful or not helpful?
Uh, in I think for me, it was helpful because it got the reflections out into the ether. Yeah, I mean, like it was a little bit of vulnerability there, but I feel like as we have matriculated together, Jessie, over the years in recording podcasts, I think that that vulnerability and willingness to be open and honest and very imperfect, especially now, like however many years into podcast recording that we've done, has become easier for us. So but still there's always a little bit of discomfort, a little bit, and despite the discomfort you can still choose like whether or not to share or whether or not to use a certain question or whether or not to even like take the time to reflect. Like you don't have to if you don't feel called to, like you don't necessarily have to, but we're just sending out some invitations for you that's an option for you too.
And I really love the part about reflecting on your own and sharing it with another person. I think that's
Mhm.
really, really important. And it's something that I do at retreats and in group coaching in particular, because I think having other people witness it and having other people see and acknowledge, for example, what you love or what lights you up, um, is really reaffirming in a different way. And so the transformation happens differently. And so I say that at the end here, just with the idea that for those of you who haven't done that, it's really a powerful experience. Even when we're doing it as a podcast recording, doing it in, of course, the safety of a small group or a retreat is definitely less vulnerable. And equally powerful because you have that witnessing and that feedback in the moment. And it often helps you go much deeper than the first thoughts that you have yourself as you sort of scribble them down. Because there's a witnessing and seeing and scribbling down the answers, and then there's a witness and seeing and sharing them and reflecting on them and getting feedback. Not judgmental feedback, but just feedback from how your body responds and reacts when you have to share it. That's good feedback. You're like, oh, actually, it's not that, it's this. And so I have found over time that for others and for me, that being in community and sharing some of this in community is really an invaluable way to move forward. And one that most of us in medicine were trained not to do, because you don't want to be judged. What if somebody thinks that my plan is not good, or what if I'm saying I've done this well and somebody disagrees, or is it okay to share it? And so the practice of doing it is something that does really change you and allows you to trust yourself and believe in yourself at a totally different level. So with that, thank you guys all so much for listening. Hopefully we were enlightening and insightful, and I'm guessing also amusing, and that we added some positivity and humor to your day as well. Reach out to one or both of us for speaking and workshops, and reach out to me if you want to come to a retreat or join me for a small group. The Transition Well group is actually almost full. There's only one more spot. It doesn't start until August. I am going to add a new group for women physician leaders because of all the workshops I've been doing on it, and it sounds fun to me. And most of the retreats for 2025 are full. There's about 4 or 5 spots left for the whole rest of the year. So if you want to come, now's the time. And otherwise, plan ahead for 2026, because I am really looking forward to meeting more of you in person and spending time with you in joy and delight. So thanks for listening. Stay on for the fantastic mindful moment that will be to come, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining us. Be sure to stay on after the sound of the singing bowl for our mindful moment offering to practice.
Please check the show notes for additional resources and insights, and please explore our other episodes.
If our message resonates, we'd love to connect further. Please share this podcast with colleagues, friends, and family members. And remember, when you work with us, you don't just consume information, you create real change.
We offer coaching, mindfulness experiences, workshops, retreats, and talks. Visit healingmedicinepodcast.com to learn more.
Please note the content of this podcast is not medical or life advice. Always participate in our mindful moments safely.
Welcome to today's mindful moment. Taking a moment to reconnect to your breath, find your sit bones, and settle in. Settling in for a mindful reflection. Taking in another big deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And bring a hand to heart and another hand to top, hand on heart. Checking in with that heart space, connecting to how it feels. Closing eyes if it's safe to do so. And asking yourself here in this moment, what have you done well this year? What have you done well this year? Letting that thought percolate in. And as the thoughts of what you haven't done well percolate in, let them go. Let them float in and float out. And focus your attention on what you have done well, what your heart knows that you have done well, what you know that you have done well. Taking in another big deep breath to own and acknowledge whatever that is that came up. What have you done well this year? And when you're ready, ask this next question: what has gone well this year? When your brain goes to what has not gone well, come right back to what has gone well for you this year. whether it's due to your own effort, whether it's due to luck, whether it's due to who knows what. How can you trust the universe? What has gone well this year? Letting your heart tell you, feeling it in your body. What has gone well this year? And when that feels complete, ask yourself this question: what are you doing that's working well? What are you currently doing that's working well? Letting that be seen, acknowledged, tucking it into the pocket behind your heart. What are you doing that's working well? And when that feels complete, taking a moment, what have you done well this year? What's going well this year? What's working well this year? When you feel complete, open your eyes, let the light in, accommodate, lower your hands, and take a moment to take another big, deep cleansing breath. Have a beautiful week. See you next week. Namaste.